Everyone, Emma Power here. Welcome back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at Arceus and Palkia Vstar and asking the question, are these cards too broken, quote unquote. So just to say for contents, we have the comment of inspiration that kickstarted this whole video, similarities that makes these cards so strong, then there'll be an Inteleon engine, the counters, adapting to the counters moving forward, and then of course the next broken deck. So the comment for inspiration was that Superior V-Star really shows how Arceus just invalidates so many cards. Why do 190 and move some energy when you can do 200 and get more energy out of the deck? That doesn't even take into consideration how broken Starbirth is, not to mention the small but relevant HP difference. So this was taken from a recent Omnipoke video, I'm sure you can find the original comment if you wish. But essentially, this brought up a really good point, is that we always take Arceus for granted because we just think, oh wow, it's such a great card, it can just be paired with anything. But then that also means that other V-Stars, for example, don't really get a whole lot of chance to shine, basically. And Superior V-Star in this case is one of them. So just going into some similarities between Palkia and Arceus, the main one you'll notice off the bat is the HP. They both have 208 hit points. Now, this is the highest of any V-Stars, and it's honestly a massive difference between 270, 260, 250, and 240. Why I mentioned 240 is because a recently revealed Alolan Vulpix V-Star has 240 hit points, so it's safe to assume we'll probably see V-Stars in the near future that have potentially 250 or 260. Actually, we do have a 260 HP V-Star, it's a Mawile, and then we have plenty of 270s, such as Charizard and Darkrai. Oh yeah. Also, I forgot to mention we already have a 250 HP one. I completely forgot about Shaman, my bad. But yeah, we already have like several really weak-ish like V-Stars. But that HP difference really does matter, especially against stuff like Palkia itself, where a Subspace Swell will be doing more damage for each bench Pokemon. And of course, that little bit of extra damage can make all the difference. So another huge thing about these cards is actually in Palkia's ability, its V-Star Power Star Portal, and Arceus' main attack, Trinity Nova. So Origin Form Palkia's V-Star Power, Star Portal, allows them to attach up to 3 Water Energy to your Water Pokemon any way you like. Trinity Nova allows you to accelerate 3 energy from the deck and deal 200 damage. So these are just very powerful, very broken setup moves, effectively. So Trinity Nova will allow you to just accelerate a bunch of basic energy from the deck to your bench Pokemon. So often, because you already have 3 energy on Arceus, you can just accelerate these 3 to whatever you happen to be powering up. And then Star Portal will just allow you to accelerate energy to your Water-type Pokemon. So that key difference, well, I say difference, but it's more of a similarity, if anything, is that they both accelerate massive amounts of energy. And that's kind of like why these cards are very powerful. Also worth mentioning is the attack cost. Origin Form Palkia only needs 2 Water Energy to deal 60, and then 20 more for each bench Pokemon, which is a super easy requirement to meet, meaning often and more often than not, Palkia players will be able to just use Subspace Swell as early as turn 2, and Arceus V-Star can attack for a single colorless and a double Turbo Energy. Part of why these decks are so strong is thanks to the Inteleon engine. Now, this is more so in the case of Palkia than it is for Arceus, but Arceus Inteleon is still a very, very strong deck, if not top 4, so definitely worth mentioning here. So why this engine ends up being as broken as it is, essentially shady dealings on Drizzle and then the Sword and Shield Inteleon can essentially find most of the deck in Palkia. You can find all your items and trainers, which will of course allow you to find stuff like Arida and Capacious Bucket, so effectively you have outs to any Pokemon that you want, as well as any amount of energy that you want. It's also useful to be able to find cards like Roxanne in the late game, which will allow you to just massively disrupt your opponent and put them in a massive state of disadvantage while you continue to swing massive amounts of damage. It also sets up massive Greninja plays with Capacious Bucket, as we mentioned before, so you can then use stuff like Quick Ball to discard water energy that you find with the bucket, and then use your massive Star Portal ability to accelerate 3 energies to Radiant Greninja. So it's massive combo game, very hard I would say to perfect and high skill ceiling to use the deck effectively, but ultimately ends up being very, very strong in that regard. Arceus, in a very similar way, doesn't typically have access to Greninja Capish Bucket combos, but does have access to more broken supporters like Charon's Care, which allows you to put an Arceus and all the cards attached to it back into your hand. So you can essentially, what you can do is you just Trinity Nova from one Arceus to another. Charon's Care, the active one, that's just been damaged, and then just rinse and repeat. So eventually you just have 2 Arceus in play at all given times, and you just start looping Arceus with Charon's Care, Pal Pads, and the Drizzle engine. Very, very strong. So that sounds very doom and gloom, but what are the counters to these busted cards? Well, Hisuian Decidueye and Flying Pikachu have already proven that they are more than worthy counters, and they essentially serve as a bit of a checkmate to counterbalance these powerful cards. Of course, these two have been featured in Worlds format, where they made up all of top 3, so very, very powerful cards. But Hisuian Decidueye, for 1 fighting 2 colors, allows you to take a 1-hit KO on an Arceus. It can also reach as high as 270, I think, with a Choice Belt, which is pretty good in of itself with Somersault Feathers, but mainly it's just here to want to KO an Arceus. There's also Galarian Zapdos V in the background that for single energy, if your opponent has a bunch of V Pokemon play, just allows you to take a 1-hit KO versus Arceus. It's obviously just very good in those like Raihan style decks with Energy Switch, and serves as a great optional Aurora Box kind of like counter to Arceus as well. Then Flying Pikachu is a big man with Max Balloon. Deals 160 damage for Lightning Double Turbo, so if you end up using Double Turbo to pay for Max Balloon and you don't use Trinity Nova's 3 basic energy, you will be doing 140, so 280, still knocking out a Palkia, provided they don't have a big charm attached to it, and we are going to talk about adapting to the counters next, so kind of bear that in mind when thinking about do you want to commit a Double Turbo to a Flying Pikachu. But it says, during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to Pokemon by attacks by basic Pokemon. So not only do you want to kill Palkia, this also kind of doubles as an immunity to Radiant Greninja, as well as giving you protection against stuff like Blitztank. So Max Balloon is very useful in that sense. Single prize decks such as the Radiant Charizard can also make use of Zeraora, which I know I probably shouldn't have had these cards blurred in the background, but deals 30 damage and then 90 more, I believe, if your opponent's active Pokemon is a GX or V Pokemon. And then, of course, with a Choice Belt, that allows you to get a 1-hit KO on a Palkia. So how can Arceus and Palkia, unfortunately, adapt to these comebacks? To these, like, comebacks? What is the word I'm looking for here? Counters. So Dunsparce, Radiant Gardevoir, and Big Charm are kind of here to solidify themselves as this annoying force. So Dunsparce has kind of fallen out of popularity ever since Urshifu took a bit of a dip. But since Urshifu has been on the rise, Hisuian Decidueye has gained massive popularity thanks to Worlds. Mysterious Nest Dunsparce could definitely come back into Arceus decks that will allow you to have 0 weakness. So Hisuian Decidueye is of course a lot less effective when you have a Dunsparce around. Radiant Gardevoir is amazing with Devotion Veil, saying that all of your Pokemon take 20 less damage from your opponent's Pokemon Vs. This does have to contest with the likes of Radiant Greninja and Radiant Charizard, but Gardevoir could definitely help you out in a lot of situations, like we think back to Somersault Feathers dealing 160, while Radiant Gardevoir just says you take 20 less after applying weakness. So Hisuian Decidueye does 160 times 2 for weakness, 320. Assuming they take 20 less with Radiant Gardevoir, they're doing 300. So if you actually have a Big Charm, you will tank the hit as an Arceus player. So if you have Big Charm, Radiant Gardevoir, you will tank the hit and you'll have 10 HP remaining. There's also several items that are coming out that allow you to heal massive amounts of damage if you have less HP remaining, so something just worth bearing in mind. Also just an increase in the amount of Big Charm we see, because as we mentioned beforehand, Flying Pikachu only deals 140 if it has a Double Turbo, meaning it's only doing 280 versus a Palkia, meaning Big Charm can definitely put him out of range. So, unfortunately, there is a new threat lurking on the horizon. I feel I've talked about this card more than enough at this point, but effectively has 280 HP, and Lost Impact deals 280 damage, and Star Requiem just is an instant KO. Giratina is obviously very highly anticipated, massive deck coming out of the next set, and being a Dragon Pokemon means it has 0 weakness. It's not like Palkia or Arceus, which can be countered for technically. This card essentially has 0 weakness, and its only real downside is the fact that it needs to interact with a Lost Zone to make use of its primary attacks. However, all that aside, this is definitely going to be like one of the best decks in the format, so definitely looking to the future, this is going to be a very broken deck. But ultimately, thanks for watching. This has just been a short video summarizing my thoughts on whether or not these are broken or not. In my humble opinion, I think Palkia is just way more powerful than Arceus, and Arceus is better for the game as opposed to Palkia. Palkia just kind of puts you in a weird position where they can just very, very easily turn to boss whatever you're trying to set up, and I think that's very bad for the game. Typically, I think Arceus just has a harder time doing that, partly because it wants to find loads of stuff. Yeah, it has Starbirth to search your deck for any 2 cards you want, but I think Arceus is just better for the game because it allows for more combos, but obviously that's just my opinion, so do let me know what you think down below. It's been Ember Power. Thank you for watching. Hope you all see you next time. Thank you for watching.